Another new Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, saying that countries refuse to take back illegal migrants, and Britain will face visa suspensions. She promised to be, and I quote, a whatever it takes, close quotes, Home Secretary. Whatever does that mean? Am I the only one who just rolls my eyes? How many times have we heard that I'm going to roll up my sleeves, we're going to stop the boats, smash the gangs, whatever it might be? Look, I wish her well. She's a tough talker, no question. I've had the privilege of meeting her on a number of occasions, and I think she did pretty well in justice, but she's got her work cut out. So how does this plan work? Well, Indians, Pakistanis, Nigerians will be among a number of people who could face visa restrictions if their countries refuse or delay efforts to take back illegal migrants from the United Kingdom. The new Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, announced the policy yesterday alongside her Five Eyes counterparts here in London, comprising the US Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, representatives of Canada, Australia and New Zealand. The move shows Mahmood's willingness to risk diplomatic spats with big nations. Speaking with journalists after the announcement, she said countries that don't play ball will suffer the consequences.
We think that there is interesting space for collaboration, particularly on how we deal with countries who do not take their citizens back. So making sure that we are able to return out of our countries people who have no right to be in our countries and send them back to their home country. So for the countries that do not play ball, we've been talking about how we can take much more coordinated action between the Five Eyes countries. And for us, that means including possibly the cutting of visas in the future, just to say, we do expect countries to play ball, play by the rules, and if one of your citizens has no right to be in our country, you do need to take them back.
She was lauding the Five Eyes unity there, but it's reported in one of your newspapers this morning, the Daily Mail, that restrictions on visas would only be imposed by Britain and not by the US and other major economies. By the way, staying with the US, Shabana Mahmood might think she's a toughie, but her US equivalent, Homeland Security Minister Kristi Noem, once shot dead the family dog after it bit her. Now, that is tough talking. That's the sort of action you want to see, isn't it? Responding to the announcement yesterday, her shadow Conservative, Chris Philps, said,
Well, we Conservatives actually legislated to create the power to use visa sanctions on countries who won't take back their own nationals. And in fact, we even proposed legislation a few months ago to compel the government to use visa sanctions, but the Labour government voted against it. So the Home Secretary may be talking tough, but I'll be judging her on her actions.
More on the political side of this with Emma Burnell, editor of Labour List, in a moment. But the practicalities, let's turn to Glyn Williams, former Director General for the Migration and Borders Group at the Home Office. He had been head of migration policy and a director at the UK Border Agency, so he's pretty well placed to discuss this. Good to have you on, sir. What do you think the impact might be? Good morning.
Morning, Nick. Well, it's a good idea in principle, and it was the previous government that took the powers to do this, but they've never been used either by the previous Tory government or this one. And there are sort of, I think, good reasons why they haven't been used when you come down to which countries are you talking about and what would you do. I mean, you just mentioned India, Pakistan and Nigeria, for example. If you take India, who do take returns, we return a lot of people to India, but not always as quickly as we would like. If we took sanctions against India, visa sanctions, I'm sure that they would retaliate against us in terms of visa sanctions first. It might be tourism, it might be business, it might be government officials. And there would also be concerns within government that if we took action against the likes of India, it would impact on the wider trade, defence, commercial, cultural relations. And it might also jeopardise the returns cooperation that we already have with India or with Pakistan or with Nigeria. So I think every time governments have looked at this, they've pulled back from it because of concerns about the unintended consequences, if you like. And then when it comes to the small boats countries like Afghanistan or Eritrea, I mean, we don't return people there because they're not considered safe. So this idea doesn't really come into play. And in any case, I don't think Afghanistan, Eritrea, Somalia, Sudan, etc. would be very bothered about us imposing visa sanctions on them. So I mean, the risk is that this sounds good, but it's yet another kind of broken reed that we're talking about when push comes to shove.
You mentioned that a country such as India,
Yeah.
we, the United Kingdom, can't deport people, as you use the words, as quickly as we might like. Why? What are the obstacles?
Well, the thing is, India wants to ensure, and this is normal, that the person that we're wanting to return to them is in fact Indian. I mean, in particular, that they're not, for example, Pakistani or Bangladeshi. So they want positive proof of identification, and they go back and check birth certificates and local registration documents before they will accept to take the person back. And that can take weeks or months. And during that weeks or months, that person can go missing again in the UK, can create human rights claims and so on. And it just makes the process more difficult.
What do you think, lastly, this new approach that Shabana Mahmood is bringing, how will we know if it's working? What do you think we should look out for?
Well, if she does it. I mean,
it's as simple as that, is it?
Is that really? I mean, she could make public threats, I suppose, to use it, and that could make a difference.
Right.
But I think it either happens or it doesn't. I mean, don't get me wrong. I do want to say I think we do need to get countries to cooperate better with us.
Yes.
And the idea is fine and is sound. It's like Trump imposing his tariffs on everybody. You've got to be ready to accept the consequences.
Yes.
And the fact that people might fight back, and that might screw you up in other areas. So,
Glyn, I've enjoyed our conversation. Thank you. The great rule of unintended consequences. Glyn Williams, former Director General for the Migration and Borders Group at the Home Office. That's the mechanics of it. What are the politics of it? Emma Burnell at 12 minutes after 7. Emma Burnell is editor of Labour List. When you hear, and I'm going to play some of the words back to you if I may, Emma, we now have a whatever it takes Home Secretary. What do you take from that, Emma? Good morning.
Good morning. I think it's quite clear that after the summer we've had, Labour is determined to get back onto the front foot in terms of its position on dealing with people who are claiming asylum and have failed in those claims. It is worth stressing that a larger portion of people who claim asylum do not fail, but those who do not have a right to stay, and therefore something has to be done. And if that something is clogging up the system, people are in limbo for ages and ages, countries aren't willing to accept them, there needs to be action taken on that. And I think a lot of the pressures on the system would be eased if that action were taken. As your last caller said, it's not that simple. There are unintended consequences that will need to be navigated carefully.
Do you think, and it has been chronicled a lot over the summer, that however the reset, the review, the repositioning of the Labour administration goes, this is one of, if not the key issue, how they fare here and how they fare with the economy being the other?
I think those are obviously the two major issues. I think sometimes that might make some Labour Party members uncomfortable and unhappy, but we live in a democratic society, and what the public cares about is what a democracy has to deal with. It's how we deal with it, whether you can be effective, efficient, and also not lose your heart and soul at the same time. And that is a very, very hard tightrope to walk sometimes. We are talking about human beings here. However much we are all concerned, and I think, there are, what's that dreadful phrase that everyone's using, legitimate concerns. They are concerns on all sides, and what we need is an effective and efficient process that is well understood by the public who are concerned, by the people who are going through the system, and fundamentally by the people who are in charge of running the system and actually delivering on it.
All right.